Asha. I'm a geologist and I live in Norway. On this channel I will introduce new articles in what's new in geology, old articles which had significant value for how we view the Earth, or some geological trips when the snow melts. But grab a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and let's see what's in the cave today. Today we're talking about old news. We're talking about Inge Lehmanns' article P prime, which was published in 1937. She was actually educated a mathematician and really wanted to work as a scientist, but the time wasn't right. So she worked as a secretary at a seismic station and used a lot of time analyzing the data she got. And as far as I understood, she got data from all over the world at this station. P prime is actually an article which proves that the Earth's interior of the Earth there is a solid core, So I'll try to give a crash course in seismology, and we'll divide it into three parts. We'll divide it into waves in itself and what seismology is, and the Snells Law, which is quite important to understand how we calculate what the math is behind seismology. And secondly, the wavelet of what you actually see as a seismologist on paper or on screen. And let's start a bit about what seismology is. And it's actually sound waves from earthquakes around the world, and there's seismic stations around the world. And if there's an earthquake here, you will have some waves, sound waves, which will travel either as body waves or as surface waves. And body waves travel through the Earth, and surface waves travel just in the crust of the Earth. We're not going to talk so much about surface waves because they're not that important. They don't tell us so much. But body waves is divided into shear waves and pressure waves. And pressure waves moves like a slinky, like this, while shear waves moves more like a normal wave. And the difference between them is that pressure waves can travel through liquid, while shear waves can't. But yeah, so but today seismology is actually used as a way to look for oil in oil exploration, as many people already know, but it started as a way of reducing the intensity of an earthquake, and also was a way to get a look inside of the Earth, which wasn't possible before. So what is Snell's Law? So Snell's Law is a way of calculating the path of waves. And it actually states that, for example, that if you have an interface with a rock with one density and a rock with another density below, the angle of incidence of the wavefront is divided by the angle of incidence of the refraction. That equals to the velocity of the first layer divided by the velocity of the second layer. So what you do in seismology is that you actually assume some velocities for in the different rock types or layers, and from that you have the incident angles, and from that you kind of get the refraction angle, and you can make a mathematical model for how you assume that the pressure wave or the shear wave will travel. So quite simply, and then you compare it to what you see in reality and see if it's concurring or not. So let's talk about what a seismologist actually see. And I will put up a picture here. You can see here that there is three different signals. You have the south-north signal, you have the east-west signal, and then you have the vertical signal. And one signal, the first signal, will show like the pressure waves will be the first to arrive. Then you have the shear waves, and then you have the surface waves. And the job of a seismologist is to divide the signal into surface wave, pressure waves, and shear waves somehow. So you can see clearly when there is an interface, because a signal is produced when there's a difference in density, or you have an interface. Then there will be then it will produce a signal. And a pure signal in seismology is called a wavelet. And if it starts with a negative amplitude, the velocity of the lower layer will be higher than the upper layer. But if it starts out with a positive amplitude, the lower layer will have a lower velocity than the upper layer. So let's talk about Inge Lehmanns' article P prime. And let's first just look at the model of the Earth, which was governing at the time, which was that there was a two-layered system. You had a discontinuity at 2,900 kilometers, which was called the Gutenberg, which is still called the Gutenberg discontinuity. And this was looked as the interface between the mantle and the core, the liquid core. And if you calculate it as you do in seismology, you calculate what you expect the path of the pressure waves and the shear waves, and if you made a mathematical model for it, you got this shadow zone, which was from 113 degrees to 150 degrees for the different signals. There would be no signals in this zone. Oh yeah, as you can see in the pictures, like it's a shadow zone. But then Inge Lehmann did this. She said, okay, let's say there is an inner core that's solid. And then she tried to calculate the intensity of the signal that would come out in this shadow zone. And she concluded that the signal you would get would be so weak that you could almost not see it unless you looked for it. And the same thing, she also said that if we have an inner core that is solid, the signal in the area between the distance between the P prime 1 and P prime 2 and P prime 3, with this 3 different pressure waves signals from different interfaces, will be so close that they're difficult to distinguish from each other. So that was her main argument, that you couldn't see them unless you looked for them, and which became more obvious when the more seismic data was perfected and seismic data was the more you look for it, it ended up being true that she was right. There was signals in the shadow zone, and it was difficult to distinguish from the different signals P prime 1 and P prime 2 and P prime 3. And it took some some time before she was recognized for this. But she was right. We have a solid inner core, and the interface between the inner and outer core is called the Lehmanns discontinuity. Okay, that's it for this time. I hope it wasn't too much information in too little time or something like that. But next time we're going to dive into some new stuff. It's not going to be old news next time. And I hope you will follow and subscribe for next time. It's going to be very exciting. And thank you for watching, and have a rocky night.